Good evening, America. Tonight, I am examining the structural roots of Islamophobia. We must look beyond the modern headlines to understand the prejudice against people who follow Islam. To dismantle hate, we must trace its historical, media, and political pathways. You know, there are many parallels between Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, anti-Catholicism, anti-gay, anti. And you can substitute, if you like, tonight, any of the antis, and you'll find a good deal of what I'm saying applies to them as well, though tonight the focus is on Islam and Muslims, and why do people hate Muslims? So, let's analyze how ancient biases became modern political tools. During the 8th century, there was a hostility towards Islam. It began with early geopolitical friction between expanding Islamic empires and Christian Europe, turning political borders into religious boundaries. The Crusades and theological dehumanization. In the Middle Ages, European authorities weaponized religious rhetoric to mobilize armies, to motivate soldiers. Church leaders systematically demonized Muslims, framing them not as just territorial rival, but as cosmic, theologic enemies of God. By the late 15th century in Spain, the forced conversion or expulsion of Muslims and Jews codified the idea that religious minorities were inherently disloyal, foreign threats to a pure state. During Western colonial expansion, European empires built a massive academic and cultural framework. They explicitly framed non-Western populations as lazy, irrational, uncivilized to justify the military invasion and economic exploitation and to take over and govern Muslim lands. This century-long history created a foundational Western blueprint for demonizing non-Christian minority groups, establishing a permanent cultural memory. Oh, it could be activated for political purposes at any time. Now, just think for a second about the things I just said. This idea that they're not human, they don't fit in. Those deep historic roots, and may not be that deep, but are directed towards blacks, towards Jews, towards Hispanics, towards gay, lesbian, Q, plus, anything you want. This idea that these minority groups are uncivilized, that we have to change them. We have to make them part of everything. Someone just said, what do you think Muslims thought of Christians during this time? I'm going to put that on towards the end, because what you want to try to do is, oh, they hated Christians, therefore it's okay to Christians to hate Muslims. That wasn't true at the time. Remember what Muhammad taught, that you are to respect the Jews and the Christians. That's very much a part of Islamic teachings. Okay? This idea of their other, the othering. Now, let's take a look. Rabbi, I'm going to focus on anti-Semitism and Islamophobia for a couple of minutes. But again, you can take these you can take this, what's going on, and see it just applied to other groups. Jews have historically been accused of prioritizing hidden global agendas over their home nations. Today, Muslims face the exact same accusation through claims that they cannot be loyal Western citizens. The anti-Semitic Great Replacement theory claims Jews are orchestrating mass migration to alter Western demographics. Conversely, Islamophobia frames the migrants themselves as an invading army seeking to subvert Western culture. And by the way, we can certainly plug in, what are the gays doing? What are the blacks doing? What are Hispanics doing? What are Haitians doing? The same kind of hate philosophy is directed at lots of groups. Medieval anti-Jewish caricatures emphasized cynical, sinister, physically exaggerated features in order to invoke fear. Modern media and political cartoons apply identical visual tropes to Muslims to project inherently evil traits. They're evil people. They're going to kidnap our children. They're going to do who knows what. We have to stop it before it happens. Anti-Semitism flattens diverse Jewish populations into a single global cabal. Islamophobia similarly flattens almost 2 billion diverse Muslims into a single dangerous monolith responsible for the actions of a few extremists. And again, when we pick up the paper, you'll see something that says Hispanic, something that says Haitian, and it's the same goal. It's to flatten all people, all gays, all Hispanics, all blacks, flatten them, and then just present this one or two individuals or few extremists and say that they represent all the others. Common technique, we see it all the time. Historical blood libels falsely accuse Jews of ritual cruelty. Today, Islamic religious practices such as dietary laws or modest dress are similarly distorted to frame the entire culture. Oh, look, they're barbaric. Oh, they're cruel. Look what they do. Karen Sue, I just saw you wanted to be invited. rabbiblock@hotmail.com. Email me. We'll meet in my Zoom room, and you can be my co-host next Wednesday. And at our meeting, we'll decide on our topic and how we'll talk with each other. Please, I'm looking forward to seeing your email. Now, post 9/11, modern media shifted from historic trains and newspapers and delays to a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week cycle driven by national security framing. Pay attention. It's asymmetrical coverage. Media shows acts of violence committed by Muslims received vastly disproportionate coverage compared to those committed by non-Muslims. And the same thing about blacks. Over, vastly disproportionate coverage. And the same with anyone that the group in power wants to discredit or destroy. Complex, localized geopolitical conflicts in the Middle East are stripped of history and blamed entirely on religion. Again, just for the benefit of the powers that be. For decades, entertainment media relied on lazy, vilified tropes of Muslims as antagonists, reinforcing social fears. Now, a little more personal. TikTok. And I've noticed this in the questions, and I've also noticed it in how long people stay to actually listen. You are aware, I hope, that the TikTok algorithm rewards outrage and high emotion engagement, frequently pushing inflammatory anti-Muslim content to maximize watch time. Accounts dedicated to posting hyper-aggressive street interviews that selectively edit interactions to make everyday Muslims appear radical, terrorists, and incompatible with Western values. I pause for a second because things appear on the screen and I'm pausing to read them. And this comes, by the way, angry comments get high watch times, and criticizing the food. And the other thing is making stuff up about your passport, how to save money, what the grocery store is doing you. Anything that smacks of there's a conspiracy going on out there and I want to alert you to it. And that conspiracy are Muslims and Sharia law. That's what TikTok pushes. That gets the views. Hate spreaders take brief, out-of-context video snippets of Islamic lectures or cultural practices, framing them as dangerous or subversive to Western audiences. Taking a localized, we've seen this, I have, you have, taking a localized 10-second clip of a Muslim speaker explaining traditional judicial historic rules from centuries ago, and then adding a text that overlays it that says, they want this law implemented in America today. The goal is to manufacture a false sense of immediate legal threat. Now, this is just appearing now on my screen. Organized internet trolls frequently target Muslim creators, flooding their comment section with abusive slurs, pig emojis, and violent rhetoric. And they do it to me as a rabbi, and people are doing it right now. Hey, thank you very much for pointing this out, that the idea is to try to discredit me or stop me for whatever you're doing. We have an example right now. And what I found is when a Muslim creator posts a simple, non-political video, a cooking tutorial, a story about their family or background or worship, an outside forum coordinates a raid, filling the comment section with, again, pig emojis, go back to your country, or references to geopolitical violence that certainly is happening in Muslim countries. But there are 2 billion Muslims in the known universe. And so you're going to try to get us to believe that what you're showing can be blamed on all Muslims. Bad faith actors use TikTok's sharing features to distort peaceful educational videos for Muslims, twisting their words into political ammunitions. A Muslim woman posts an educational video explaining why she wears a hijab. A political account uses the stitch feature to cut her off mid-sentence, and cutting in footage of extremist violence, political oppression abroad, or falsely equating her personal spiritual choice with global terrorism. Extremists use specific acronyms, hidden emojis, distorted spelling to bypass the filters, ensuring that hate speech remains highly visible, using alphanumeric codes, spelling Muslim with a Y, and then saying something derogatory, and spreading Islamophobic conspiracy theories. And I've been watching that happen to me in Judaism for all the years I've done individual TikToks, and now that I go live. It's not reserved just for hating Muslims. It's everything. I've just received some more invitations to co-host, and maybe you didn't hear me when I said before. You email me, we meet and decide on our topic and how we'll talk with each other, and I guarantee you will be with me as a co-host or a guest next Wednesday. But we have to talk beforehand. You see, that's one of the things that people do. Innocently say, oh, please invite me, I want to be a guest. And then your sole purpose is hateful speech, blame all Jews for what the government of Israel may be doing, blame all Muslims for what may be going on in a single Muslim country. So, no, I'm not going to invite anyone, but I am inviting everyone. Talk to me. Millions of dollars fund a network of think tanks and political groups dedicated entirely to spreading anti-Muslim propaganda. Now, let me just insert, there are similar groups spreading anti-gay, anti-lesbian, anti-black, anti-Hispanic. So make no mistake, I'm addressing Islamophobia, but make no mistake, it's out there. Organizations like the Center for Security Policy and the David Horowitz Freedom Center have poured massive funding in producing studies and reports that frame mainstream Muslim civil rights organizations as stealth national security threats. Politicals across Western democracy routinely use anti-refugee and anti-Muslim rhetoric as a strategic tool to mobilize. We're all anxious. The price of gas, the price of food, inflation, the war that's going on that makes no sense. We're all nervous. And so we're open. In European elections, far-right parties like the National Rally in France or the Alternative for Germany, the AfD, explicitly run campaigns warning of the Islamization of Europe just to explode anxiety and to gain parliamentary seats. Political bodies have codified bias through policy, such as discriminatory travel bans and highly disproportionate surveillance of Muslim communities. France's sweeping anti-separatism law regulating mosques, the post-9/11 NYPD surveillance programs that mapped out Muslim student groups, where they went, businesses, and mosques without any evidence of wrongdoing. And I want to stress that, no evidence of wrongdoing. Fanning the flames of cultural anxiety, allowing political entities, that's the goal, to distract us, the public, from pressing domestic, economic, and social failures. Look at the economy. Oh, look at that pond. It's full of algae. Look at the price of gasoline. Oh, look at over here. Oh, look over here. That's what a magician does. It's distract us, defocus us. When the government faces severe inflation, housing shortages, a healthcare crisis, populist leaders frequently shift the political debate toward banning visible religious symbols. Anything so that they're not held accountable for what's going on. When mainstream political parties tolerate, or weaponize Islamophobia for short-term electoral gains, they normalize hate across the entire culture. Mainstream conservative and some centrist parties across the West are adopting the watered-down language of the far right regarding immigration, national identity, which gives anti-Muslim bias political legitimacy and ultimately moves the goalposts of what's acceptable in public discourse. You know, I've been asked, how can you defend Muslims, or how can you say anything good about them because of how they treat Christians and Jews in Islamic countries? You're right. In some Islamic countries, Jews and Christians aren't treated properly. But there are 2 billion individuals. So to hold a Muslim in the United States of America responsible for the politics of the Middle East is that same toxic logic as holding an American Jew responsible for the actions of the Israeli government. We must separate global geopolitics from human rights of our neighbors. Don't fall into that. I found it fascinating that when was the last time we held Catholics responsible for what the IRA did in Northern Ireland and all the things that other people have done? We don't see that. So don't blame everyone for the act of a few extremist people. You know, Rabbi, they wouldn't accept you. I have news for you. In Saudi Arabia, in the Emirates, I am respected. They have rules about practicing other religions and things, but there's no discrimination. I can go. So we don't want to fall for that. And I love when people quote, and maybe you heard my series I did. I can prove anything from Old or New Testament, Hebrew or Greek scripture. You tell me what you want to prove, and I'll give you the text to prove it. And people do that with the Quran. And they do that with the Bible in different places. No. It's called proof texting, cherry picking. If you read religious texts literally without context, history, or centuries of rabbinic Islamic jurisprudence, you distort them completely. Mainstream Islamic scholars throughout history have constantly interpreted the verses you're quoting me as specific to historic battles, to a specific time and place, and not open-ended commands for violence. Now, there are Muslim terrorist groups that use them as open-ended commands for violence. That's true, they do. But Islamic Muslim scholars just shake their head and say they're distorting the Quran. That's not what's being said. That's not what's being taught. I'm reading now some of the questions. It appears that the filter got rid of a lot of the trolls and the people were throwing things. And people remain quiet about some things. But that doesn't give us license or reason to say, oh, they're wrong or we hate them. Okay? Nazi Germany recognized Jews as the problem, and they use that politically. Present-day Germany has done incredible teachings about what happened when hate ran without constraint. And as someone said, solidarity against oppression is the only way. And you'll notice I keep inserting other hate. Everything I said, using it in the news and the politics to get elected, you blame the blacks, blame Hispanics, blame. And we're nervous people, the public. And prices are out of control. Inflation is higher than it's been since I don't know when. Gas is off the charts. And so, in order to get votes, in order to stay elected, what you do is you promote hate. And that's the purpose of this presentation tonight, is to alert us that 2 billion Muslims are not responsible for the acts of certain individual terrorists, or they're not responsible for the choices that Islamic countries make. They're here in the United States. They're in Germany. They're in France. They're in England. And that's one of the major points I want to get across, is this flattening, is this blaming an entire group for what a few individuals may have done, terrorist acts, not denying they did it, but we don't want to blame everyone of the faith, that it's their fault. Thank you for watching this evening, and thank you for listening. You have topics you would like me to present, please email them to me. If you'd like to co-host, email me, and I'll be glad to share this time with anyone who would like to share it with me. Good evening.